$1 in the 1960s. America could buy more than a $20 bill can today. When you could walk into a diner with 4 quarters in your pocket and leave with your belly full. When children could buy candy with pennies and parents could feed families on wages that seem impossible today. This is what $1 could buy in 1960s America and why everything changed. Pull into any Texaco or Shell station in 1965 and a full-service attendant would fill your tank, check your oil, and wash your windshield for 31 cents per gallon. That single dollar bought more than 3 gallons of gasoline, enough to drive across town and back several times. The attendant wore a clean uniform and knew regular customers by name. He'd check tire pressure without being asked, offer directions to travelers, and hand back change with a smile. Service came with the gas because reputation mattered when customers had choices between competing stations on every corner. Those 31 cents bought pure gasoline without ethanol additives or government mandates that diluted fuel quality. Cars ran cleaner and lasted longer on gas that was actually gas, not the chemical mixture that modern pumps dispense at prices that would have seemed impossible to 1960s drivers. $1's worth of gas could power a weekend trip to the lake, a drive to visit relatives in the next county, or a week's worth of commuting to work. Filling up the family car was a routine expense, not a financial decision that required checking bank balances or choosing between fuel and food. Now that same dollar buys less than a quarter gallon of gas that costs more and performs worse than what Americans once considered their birthright: affordable energy that powered prosperity instead of poverty. The freedom that cheap gas provided extended to every aspect of American life. Saturday night at the local picture show cost 68 cents for adults, meaning $1 got you into the theater with change left over for popcorn. The ticket wasn't just admission, it was a passport to 3 hours of entertainment that included cartoons, newsreels, and double features that made every visit feel like an event. The theater itself was an experience worth the price. Red velvet seats, ornate architecture, and screens that filled entire walls created an atmosphere that modern multiplexes can't replicate. Ushers in uniform guided families to their seats with flashlights, and the smell of real butter on fresh popcorn filled lobbies where people dressed up for the occasion. Movies were made for general audiences, meaning families could attend together without parents worrying about content that would corrupt their children or offend their values. Hollywood produced entertainment that celebrated American values instead of mocking them, heroes instead of anti-heroes, stories that inspired rather than depressed. The shared experience of watching the same movie at the same time created a common culture that connected Americans across regional and economic differences. Monday morning conversations at work and school centered on what everyone had seen over the weekend, building bonds through shared entertainment. Now that same dollar won't even cover the convenience fee for buying movie tickets online, while Hollywood produces content that divides families instead of bringing them together around stories worth sharing. Entertainment that once united communities has been replaced by digital isolation that separates rather than connects. Walk into any local diner or drive-in restaurant and 85 cents bought a complete meal that filled you up and left you satisfied. The hamburger was made from real ground beef, hand-formed into patties and grilled to order. The fries were cut from actual potatoes and cooked in beef fat that created flavors impossible to replicate with modern vegetable oils. The Coca-Cola came in thick glass bottles that were washed and reused, mixed with real sugar instead of the corn syrup that would later replace natural sweeteners. The combination of protein, carbohydrates, and caffeine provided energy for working people who needed substantial nutrition to fuel physical labor. Restaurants were locally owned establishments where the owner knew customers by name and the cook took pride in preparing food that kept people coming back. Quality mattered because reputation determined success in communities where word traveled fast and customers had multiple choices for dining. The meal was prepared from scratch, using ingredients that came from recognizable sources: beef from local cattle, potatoes from nearby farms, sugar from actual cane or beet processing. Everything was real because fake food didn't exist yet, and processed food hadn't replaced cooking with reheating. A teenage boy earning minimum wage could take his girlfriend out for dinner without asking his parents for money, and families could eat at restaurants regularly without choosing between dining out and paying bills. Now that same dollar might cover the sales tax on a fast food meal made from processed ingredients that provide calories without nutrition, served by workers who can't afford to eat where they work. Real food prepared by real cooks has been replaced by industrial food production that prioritizes profit over nourishment. Every neighborhood had a bakery where fresh bread cost 22 cents per loaf, meaning a single dollar bought 4 loaves plus change. The bread was baked daily from flour, water, salt, and yeast, nothing else, and sold warm from ovens that filled entire blocks with the aroma of genuine baking. Bakers started work before dawn, mixing dough by hand and shaping loaves with skills passed down through generations of craftsmen who understood that bread was the foundation of family nutrition. The crust was thick and crunchy, the interior soft and dense, and the flavor was what bread was supposed to taste like before chemical additives replaced traditional ingredients. Families bought bread daily because it contained no preservatives to extend shelf life artificially. Children were sent to the bakery after school with coins clutched in their hands, returning home with warm loaves that would be consumed by bedtime and replaced the next day with fresh baking. The bread lasted 1 or 2 days at most, but it provided genuine nutrition that sustained growing children and working adults through demanding physical labor. Mothers used it for sandwiches that actually filled lunchboxes, toast that provided energy for breakfast, and the foundation for meals that brought families together around kitchen tables. A single dollar bought enough bread to feed a family for several days, demonstrating how basic nutrition remained affordable for working people who understood the value of simple, honest food prepared by skilled craftsmen. Now that same dollar won't buy a single loaf of industrial bread pumped with chemicals to create the illusion of freshness while providing empty calories instead of genuine nutrition. Neighborhood bakeries disappeared when convenience replaced quality and mass production destroyed local craftsmanship. The local butcher sold ground beef for 59 cents per pound, meaning a dollar bought nearly 2 pounds of meat that came from cattle raised on grass instead of feedlots. The butcher knew the farmers who supplied his meat, and customers knew they were buying protein from animals that lived natural lives before being processed into food. The grinding was done fresh daily from cuts that the butcher selected and trimmed himself, ensuring quality that came from skill and pride rather than industrial processing that prioritized speed over substance. Fat content was controlled by mixing different cuts to create a hamburger that cooked properly and tasted like beef instead of the flavorless protein paste that modern grocery stores sell. Ground beef was the foundation of family meals that stretched protein budgets while providing genuine nutrition. Mothers could make hamburgers, meatloaf, chili, spaghetti sauce, and dozens of other dishes from a single pound of meat that fed entire families around dinner tables where conversation mattered more than convenience. The meat was never pumped with antibiotics or growth hormones because cattle were raised naturally on pastures where they ate grass instead of corn, and chemicals designed to maximize weight gain regardless of meat quality. The result was protein that tasted like meat and provided nutrition that sustained healthy growth in children and strength in adults. A dollar's worth of ground beef could feed a family of 4, a substantial dinner with leftovers for sandwiches the next day, making protein affordable for working families who understood that good food was an investment in health and strength. Now that same dollar might buy a 1/4 pound of industrial meat from animals raised in conditions that would horrify previous generations, processed with chemicals that extend shelf life while destroying flavor and nutrition. Local butchers who knew their customers and their suppliers have been replaced by corporate food systems that treat meat as commodity rather than nourishment. The milkman delivered fresh milk for 49 cents per gallon, meaning a dollar bought more than 2 gallons of real dairy products that came from local cows grazing in actual pastures. The milk was processed minimally and delivered in glass bottles that were washed and reused, creating a sustainable system that connected families directly to local farms. The cream rose naturally to the top because homogenization hadn't yet destroyed the natural structure of milk proteins and fats. Mothers would shake the bottle to mix the cream back in or pour it off for coffee and cooking, understanding that they were serving their families genuine nutrition from a trusted source. Milk tasted like milk because it came from cows that ate grass instead of artificial feed designed to maximize production regardless of quality. The difference was obvious to anyone who had tasted real milk from healthy animals raised naturally on pastures where they belonged. Children drank milk with every meal because it provided calcium, protein, and vitamins essential for healthy growth. Parents trusted the source because they knew the local dairy and the farmers who supplied it, creating relationships that ensured quality through reputation rather than government regulation. $1's worth of milk could fill a family's refrigerator with enough dairy products to last several days, making essential nutrition affordable for families who understood that healthy children required genuine food from reliable sources. Now that same dollar might buy a quart of industrial milk from factory farms where cows never see sunlight, pumped with hormones and processed until it barely resembles the natural product that once nourished healthy families. The trust between families and their food sources has been replaced by corporate agriculture that prioritizes profit over the health of both animals and consumers. Children could walk into any corner store with $1 and leave with 5 full-size candy bars that were made from real ingredients instead of chemical substitutes. Chocolate came from actual cocoa beans, sugar from real cane, and nuts from trees instead of laboratories that created artificial flavors designed to trigger addiction rather than satisfy hunger. The candy was wrapped in paper instead of plastic, manufactured by companies that competed on taste and quality rather than marketing budgets and shelf stability. Children saved their allowances and lunch money to buy treats that provided genuine sweetness instead of the chemical rush that modern candy delivers. Corner stores were neighborhood institutions where owners knew every child by name and parents by reputation. The candy counter displayed dozens of choices behind glass cases that children pressed their noses against while making difficult decisions about how to spend their precious coins. The ritual of buying candy was part of childhood education in making choices, handling money, and understanding value. Children learned to count change, compare prices, and save for special treats that weren't available on demand, but required patience and planning. 5 candy bars could be shared with friends, saved for special occasions, or consumed slowly to extend the pleasure of genuine sweetness made from real ingredients by companies that understood children deserved quality instead of chemicals. Now that same dollar might buy 1 small candy bar made from artificial ingredients that provide empty calories while teaching children to crave processed food instead of genuine nutrition. The corner stores where children learned responsibility have been replaced by corporate chains that view young customers as targets for marketing rather than neighbors deserving respect. Before anyone understood the health consequences, a pack of cigarettes cost 30 cents, meaning $1 bought 3 packs plus change. This represented the era's different relationship with personal choices and government regulation, when adults made their own decisions about consumption without bureaucratic interference. Cigarettes were manufactured from tobacco grown on American farms by families who had cultivated the crop for generations, creating products that were genuinely American instead of imports from countries with questionable quality standards. The tobacco was processed minimally and rolled into cigarettes that contained exactly what they claimed to contain. Smoking was socially acceptable and even encouraged as sophisticated adult behavior, advertised by celebrities and athletes who endorsed products they actually used. Restaurants, offices, airplanes, and homes all accommodated smoking because personal freedom meant allowing adults to make their own choices about legal products. The low price made cigarettes accessible to working men who viewed smoking as one of few affordable pleasures available after long days of physical labor. Veterans returning from World War II and Korea had developed smoking habits during military service, and civilian life offered few restrictions on continuing practices that had been encouraged during wartime. $1's worth of cigarettes could last several days for moderate smokers, representing entertainment and stress relief that was affordable even for families on tight budgets who needed small luxuries to make hard work bearable. The transition from personal choice to government regulation represents broader changes in American society that replaced individual responsibility with bureaucratic control over personal decisions. Local newspapers cost 3 cents per copy, meaning $1 bought more than a month of daily papers that provided comprehensive coverage of local, national, and international news. The papers were delivered by boys on bicycles who knew every customer on their routes and collected payment weekly from subscribers who valued reliable information. Newspapers provided detailed reporting on government activities, business developments, sports scores, and community events that connected readers to their towns and the broader world. Editorial pages featured reasoned commentary from multiple perspectives, and classified sections helped neighbors buy, sell, and trade goods and services. The papers were printed on real printing presses operated by skilled craftsmen who took pride in producing clean, readable publications that informed citizens about issues affecting their daily lives. Reporters lived in the communities they covered and understood local concerns because they shared the same experiences as their readers. Families gathered around breakfast tables to discuss news stories that affected their lives, creating informed citizens who participated in democratic processes because they understood the issues and trusted the sources providing information. Children learned current events by reading papers alongside their parents, developing literacy and civic awareness simultaneously. $1's worth of newspapers could keep a family informed for weeks, making citizenship affordable for working people who needed reliable information to make informed decisions about local and national issues that affected their daily lives. Now that same dollar might cover the digital subscription fee for access to biased reporting that divides rather than informs, entertainment rather than news, and opinion rather than facts. Local newspapers that connected communities have been replaced by corporate media that treats readers as consumers rather than citizens. Farm fresh eggs cost 59 cents per dozen, meaning $1 bought 20 eggs from chickens that lived on actual farms instead of industrial facilities designed to maximize production regardless of animal welfare or food quality. The eggs came from hens that pecked in farmyards, ate natural diets, and produced genuine nutrition instead of industrial protein. Local farmers brought eggs to market in wooden crates or wire baskets, selling directly to customers who could ask questions about how the chickens were raised and what they were fed. The shells were thick and strong, the yolks deep yellow or orange from healthy hens, and the whites firm and clear from fresh production. Eggs were the foundation of family breakfast that provided protein and energy for children heading to school and adults beginning workdays that required physical strength and mental alertness. Mothers could scramble, fry, boil, or bake eggs into dozens of dishes that stretched protein budgets while providing genuine nutrition. The shells were used for garden fertilizer, the cartons for craft projects, and every part of the purchase served multiple purposes in households that wasted nothing because everything had value. Children learned responsibility by gathering eggs from family chickens or helping parents select the freshest eggs at market. $1's worth of eggs could provide protein for a family for several days, making essential nutrition affordable for working people who understood that healthy families required genuine food from reliable sources they could trust. Now that same dollar might buy half a dozen eggs from industrial facilities where chickens never see sunlight, producing protein that lacks the nutrition and flavor of eggs from healthy hens raised naturally. The connection between families and their food sources has been severed by industrial agriculture that treats food as commodity rather than nutrition. Quality house paint cost around 20 cents per gallon, meaning $1 bought enough paint to cover an entire room with color that lasted for years without fading or peeling. The paint was made from traditional ingredients that provided genuine coverage and durability instead of the chemical mixtures that modern manufacturers sell at premium prices. Homeowners could afford to maintain their properties properly because paint was priced for working families who took pride in keeping their homes attractive and well maintained. Weekend projects were affordable family activities that improved living conditions while teaching children about responsibility and craftsmanship. Hardware stores were neighborhood institutions where knowledgeable owners helped customers select the right products for specific projects, mixing custom colors and providing advice based on years of experience helping neighbors solve problems. The service was personal because reputation mattered in communities where customers had choices. Paint quality was genuine because manufacturers competed on performance rather than marketing, creating products that provided value through durability and coverage rather than fancy packaging and celebrity endorsements. A single coat often provided complete coverage that lasted for years with minimal maintenance. $1's worth of paint could transform a child's bedroom, freshen a kitchen, or repair exterior surfaces that protected homes from weather damage. The investment provided immediate improvement and long-term protection at prices that made home maintenance affordable for average families. Now that same dollar might cover the sales tax on a quart of paint that requires multiple coats and frequent touch-ups, sold by corporate stores where employees know nothing about the products they sell. Local hardware stores where neighbors helped neighbors have been replaced by corporate chains that treat customers as transactions rather than community members. These prices weren't accidents or temporary bargains. They represented an economy that worked for ordinary Americans instead of against them. When $1 could buy gas for the weekend, food for the family, and entertainment for the evening, working people could afford to live instead of just surviving. The transformation from affordable America to expensive America wasn't natural evolution, but deliberate policy that benefited corporations and government at the expense of families who once prospered on wages that seem impossible today. Those 1960s prices reflected an economy where money held value because it was backed by production instead of debt, where competition kept prices low because quality mattered more than monopoly control. That America didn't disappear because it was outdated. It was destroyed because it was too successful at creating prosperity for ordinary people instead of concentrating wealth among elites who preferred scarcity to abundance, dependency to independence, and control to freedom. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.